Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming. My name is Rebecca Williams, and I'm here to talk to you today about the benefits and drawbacks of vaccinations for children. Anything regarding the health and safety of the next generation is very important and worth being informed about. There is much debate in today's world as to whether or not the government has the right to mandate that your children be vaccinated, and whether or not your children should be vaccinated at all. I've recently done quite a bit of research on this topic in order to give you this short presentation today. I'm going to give the major arguments of both sides of this debate. First, the arguments against vaccinating children, then we will follow with the arguments in favor of vaccination. To begin our exploration of the arguments against vaccination, we can begin with the most frequently raised objection, that government-mandated vaccination infringes upon our constitutionally protected freedoms. The freedom to do what we want with our own bodies is perhaps the most sacred freedom of all, and many believe based solely on this alone that the government should not have the right to tell its citizens what substances to put in their own bodies. There are also several religious schools of thought that oppose vaccination, and many feel a government mandate on vaccines violates their First Amendment right to freedom of religion. As stated in the First Amendment to the Constitution, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the exercise thereof. In addition, some vaccines, including the MMR vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella, the chickenpox vaccine, and vaccines for hepatitis A, contain trace amounts of animal matter. What do we mean by animal matter? Well, particles of pig gelatin, chicken eggs, insect cells, and cells from African green monkeys can be found in small amounts in these common vaccines. This, of course, conflicts with the philosophies of vegan and vegetarian parents. Vaccines could also be harmful. According to the Centers for Disease Control, all vaccines have a 1 in a million chance of a life-threatening allergic reaction. 1 in a million may not sound like much, but what if that one was your son or daughter? The last major objection that we will explore regarding vaccinations is regarding conflicts of interest. After all, drug companies are out to make a profit, and how do we know what strings were pulled with the FDA in order to get approval for their vaccines? In the past, there have also been instances of high-profile figures leaving large pharmaceutical manufacturers to accept positions with the FDA and the CDC. From 2002 to 2009, Julie Gerberding, president of Merck Vaccines, a for-profit company, was also director of the Centers for Disease Control. Conflicts of interest such as this lead many parents to ask themselves, can the FDA and the CDC be trusted? Now that we have discussed 3 common objections to vaccination, let us turn to the arguments in favor of vaccination. First, according to a partner organization for the United Nations, the lives of over 2 million children are saved worldwide each year by vaccinations, and the CDC estimates that in a 10-year period, over 700,000 children were saved from death in the United States alone. Vaccines have also wiped out or eradicated completely some of the worst diseases in the history of mankind. Thanks to the smallpox vaccine, there has not been a single case of smallpox in the United States in over 60 years. Here in this graph, we have the first part of the 20th century instances of diphtheria, measles, and whooping cough. As you can see here, the numbers are slowly dropping to 0 as we are near the 1970s. Our second argument for vaccination deals not just with the safety of our children, but of society as a whole. Very small children, the elderly, and individuals with compromised immune systems, such as cancer patients, cannot be vaccinated and are relying on the rest of the population to prevent an outbreak. This is where the concept of herd immunity comes in. Herd immunity means that 92 to 94% of a population is not susceptible to a disease, and there simply are not enough people catching the disease for there to be an outbreak. We have an obligation to the more vulnerable members of our society to vaccinate our children. Our last argument in favor of vaccination is that despite all the objections we've covered, almost all major public health organizations support vaccination. Several organizations that have made public endorsements of vaccination include, but are not limited to, the Food and Drug Administration, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the World Health Organization. In conclusion, we have discussed several reasons for and against vaccinating your children. Vaccines are potentially harmful, contain objectionable ingredients, and are promoted by agencies that have clear conflicts of interest, and mandatory vaccination may infringe upon our constitutionally protected freedoms. On the other hand, vaccines have eradicated deadly diseases, saved millions of lives, and protect the weaker members of our families. They have also been endorsed by almost every major health organization as safe. Now that you have a starting point, I encourage you to do your own research. Get informed before making this weighty decision. Parents, the future is in your hands.